Hey Emily, can I be real for a second? Sometimes learning English feels like banging your head against a wall, right?
Oh, totally. Like when you know a word or grammar rule, but your brain just refuses to cooperate in the moment. So frustrating.
Exactly. And that frustration can really mess with your motivation if you let it. But what if we looked at those moments differently? Like, what if frustration was actually fuel?
I love that idea. Because honestly, those struggles mean you're pushing your limits. You're stretching your brain, and that's uncomfortable, but necessary.
Right. So instead of feeling stuck or annoyed, what if we could use that feeling to power through and actually learn better?
Yeah, like flipping the script on frustration. Instead of it being a stop sign, it becomes a green light, a sign that growth is happening.
I think today's episode is all about that, how to take those tough, frustrating moments in language learning and turn them into something that drives you forward instead of holding you back.
Because if you can do that, you're not just learning English, you're learning how to learn. And that's a skill that will help you everywhere.
So let's dive in and talk about how to turn frustration into your secret weapon.
One thing I notice with learners is that frustration usually spikes when expectations don't match reality. Like, you expect to get something quickly, but it takes longer. And that gap, it feels like failure.
Yeah, and that's so normal. But here's the trick, that gap is where learning actually happens. It's like your brain's way of saying, hey, challenge accepted, but sometimes we interpret it as a stop sign instead of a challenge.
Exactly. And the cool part is, when you embrace that challenge accepted mindset, frustration becomes a signal that you're growing, not failing.
For sure. Also, I think sharing those frustrations with someone, like a friend, a teacher, or even a community, can turn the feeling from isolating to motivating.
Oh, 100%. When you realize you're not alone in feeling stuck, it becomes easier to push through. Plus, hearing how others overcame similar struggles can give you fresh ideas and hope.
And don't forget, sometimes frustration shows up because we're trying to learn in ways that don't match how we learn best.
Yes. Maybe you're trying to memorize vocabulary with flashcards, but you're more of a story person who remembers words through context or conversations.
That's why experimenting with different methods is so important. Frustration can be your brain's way of nudging you to try something new.
So instead of fighting frustration, you listen to it. You ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Do I need a new approach? More practice? Or maybe just a break?
Exactly. And when you start to see frustration as feedback, it becomes less scary and more useful.
That's such a powerful mindset shift, from I'm bad at this to this is part of my learning journey.
And it's not just about language. This idea of turning frustration into fuel can apply to anything challenging in life.
Totally. But since we're here to talk about English learning, let's share some practical tips on how to actually do this.
Yeah, let's break down some ways listeners can transform those frustrating moments into stepping stones.
Alright, first tip. Whenever you hit a frustrating spot, pause and name the feeling. Just say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling stuck or annoyed right now. It sounds simple, but putting a label on it helps you step back instead of getting swallowed by the emotion.
Yeah, it's like giving frustration a face so it doesn't control you behind the scenes. Then, once you recognize it, ask yourself, what exactly is causing this? Is it a tricky grammar rule? Pronunciation? Or maybe I'm tired?
Second tip, break the problem into smaller parts. If a sentence structure feels overwhelming, try mastering just one part of it today, not the whole thing at once. Celebrate that small win. It adds up.
For sure. Also, mixing up your learning style can help. If reading a text frustrates you, try listening to a podcast or watching a short video on the same topic. Different input can refresh your brain.
Third tip, use frustration as a reminder to take breaks. Pushing through exhaustion often backfires. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to walk away for a bit and come back with fresh eyes.
I like that. It's kind of like letting your brain do some behind-the-scenes processing while you relax.
Fourth tip, talk about your struggles with others. Join language forums, chat with fellow learners, or find a language buddy. You'll be surprised how many people share your frustrations and can offer helpful advice or just support.
And finally, remind yourself of your why. When frustration hits, reconnect with why you started learning English in the first place. That motivation can be the fuel that keeps you going through tough spots.
It's like recharging your emotional tank. When you remember your purpose, frustration loses its power to stop you.
Exactly. And over time, you'll notice that frustration becomes less of a wall and more of a signal, telling you where to focus, adjust, and grow.
It's a journey, right? And every frustrating moment is just a pit stop on the road to fluency.
You know, Emily, I think one of the hardest things about frustration is how personal it feels. Like, you start thinking, maybe I'm just not good at this, or maybe I'm too old, too slow, or just can't do it.
Totally. Those thoughts can sneak in so fast and feel so real. But here's the truth, those thoughts aren't facts. They're just part of the noise your brain creates when it's stressed.
Right. It's like your brain's drama queen moment. But when you catch yourself thinking like that, try to challenge it with evidence. For example, remember all the things you have learned, even if they feel small.
Exactly. Like that time you nailed a tricky pronunciation, or understood a fast conversation. Those wins matter. They are proof that you're capable.
Another way to turn frustration into fuel is to keep a language journal. Write down the struggles, sure, but also the small victories and breakthroughs. When you look back, you'll see how far you've come.
That's such a great idea. Sometimes progress feels invisible day to day, but writing it down makes it real and visible.
And here's a tip from my experience, use frustration as a way to discover what you enjoy most about learning English. Maybe you get frustrated with textbooks but love chatting with people or watching movies.
Yeah. When you find what makes you excited, learning becomes less of a chore and more of a passion. Frustration then becomes a guide, showing you what to adjust.
And remember, frustration is a sign you're pushing your boundaries, which means growth is happening. That's something to celebrate, not fear.
You know, Nick, I've actually heard some amazing stories from our listeners about this. Like one person shared how they used to get so frustrated trying to understand native speakers, they almost gave up.
Yeah, but instead of quitting, they decided to change their approach, started listening to slower podcasts, repeating phrases, and eventually joined a language exchange group. That frustration pushed them to find new ways.
Exactly. And over time, that struggle turned into confidence. Now they're chatting comfortably, and even making new friends through English.
That's the kind of transformation that really shows how frustration isn't the enemy, it's a signpost. It's saying, try something different, you're on the edge of a breakthrough.
Another listener said their frustration came from comparing themselves to others online, who seemed to learn so fast. But once they stopped that comparison and focused on their own pace, frustration eased.
Oh man, comparison is such a motivation killer. But once you realize everyone's journey is different, frustration turns into patience and self-kindness.
Yeah, and it helps to remember that even native speakers struggle with language sometimes. It's part of being human, not a sign of failure.
For sure. So hearing these stories reminds me that we're all in this together. And the frustrations? They are actually little sparks lighting the way forward.
So if you're feeling stuck or annoyed today, know that it's a normal part of learning, and that it can lead you to amazing growth if you use it right.
And on that note, let's keep exploring how to make frustration work for you.
All right, Nick. I think that's a great place to pause for today. Remember, frustration doesn't mean failure, it means you're learning, growing and pushing your limits.
Absolutely. So next time you feel stuck, try to see it as fuel instead of a roadblock. Use it to power your next step forward.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us on the British Accent Podcast. We hope this episode helps you turn your language struggles into your biggest strength.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and share it with anyone who needs a little boost in their English journey.
And hey, feel free to reach out and share your own stories of turning frustration into fuel. We'd love to hear them.
Catch you next time, and keep moving forward.
Take care, everyone.